Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the astrology of the Super Bowl. Can astrology predict the outcome? We've been trying to answer this for the last couple of years, and if they are any indication, yes, we can. Having successfully predicted the outcome for these last 2 years, let's see if we can do it for 2024. Hi, everyone. My name is Dayna Schmidt-Johnson. I am the community manager of the Ritual Society, as well as the house astrologer here at Writual Planner. And this year, we are excited to talk about the San Francisco 49ers taking on the reigning Kansas City Chiefs. They won last year, and we did predict that successfully. This comes down on February 11th, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. in Las Vegas, Nevada. So this is the chart that we are looking at for this actual event. And we're going to break down this chart, and we are going to break down every player against that chart. So this is how we are going to decide who is going to win this big event. We're going to be looking against 4 different categories here. First of all, Mars. Mars is the planet of war. Mars comes in strong with things like the Super Bowl. When we have an epic battle of 2 teams, one against another, it is ripe for a big event. So we always want to look towards Mars and see what Mars is doing. Mars is coming in at the very last degree here of Capricorn. So that tells us it's this last opportunity for Mars to really push through with this strong, stubborn, resilient Capricorn energy. And it's going to make for a really, really great game. We've got a lot of hard work on the line here. So both of these teams are really going to bring their all. Next, we're looking at Mars conjuncting Pluto. We've got strength, we've got passion, we've got courage. Both sides of Mars and Pluto. Pluto is actually said to be like the next degree of Mars. It's a little bit deeper, more transcendent, more intuitive, more transformative, but it's still got that strength and pressure that it comes with Mars territory. There's a lot of instinct that is at play here with these two matching up during this game. Then we look at Moon conjuncting Neptune. These 2 planets right here are going to create a wild sense of confusion and delusion. Don't be surprised if plays seem to go off the rails, if miscommunication seems to be in the air. Everyone's senses are a little heightened now. And so this can go one of 2 ways, either being really in tune with that intuition or really being confused by mixed messages. And we'll take a look at how that works out for teams, coaches, and the quarterbacks. Finally, Jupiter, our planet of luck and expansion, is creating a sextile aspect with Saturn, the planet of boundaries and restriction. And so these 2 together create an interesting space that is optimistic but realistic. So there's positive and restraint going into this, right? If there's good judgment, the strong work ethic to back it all up, then those 2 will play a beneficial factor in the game for these 2 teams. So let's take a look at how it works then with the teams themselves. So the San Francisco 49ers were actually originally part of the All-America Football Conference in June 4th, 1944, when they were established. It wasn't until 2 years later that they joined the NFL. They were established originally in San Francisco, California, have never moved. So this is the birth chart for the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to look at these 4 aspects compared to their birth chart. So one of the first things we notice here is those aspects of Mars and Pluto conjoining together right next to the south node of the San Francisco 49ers chart. And so this creates a very interesting tension and conflict. There's an intense passion for achieving goals, but there's also a potential for some karmic reckoning here. Now, that can go both ways, right? Positive and negative. It depends on what's been going on in their past experiences, their past tendencies, the patterns of this team, especially when it comes to aggression, self-centeredness, and being assertive. So if they can come together and with wisdom and balance these energies out, that can be a really positive thing. However, the moon and Neptune are also squaring with this chart's natal Saturn right over here in Gemini. And this creates a challenging and tense aspect. It can create obstacles. It can create delays. There can be, again, issues with boundaries and maybe misunderstandings as well when one person wants to go one way and another wants to go the other. So the one thing that is working out for them here is Jupiter kind of squaring off with the North Node, and giving this tension that can create a positive outcome in the end. So we can look at that, but overall, this creates a lot of tension in this chart, some difficulty for the 49ers. When we flip and look at Kansas City's chart, however, we see that this Mars and Pluto meetup are opposing Mercury, which is the planet of the mind and making decisions, which is very important during a game like this. So there's an increased potential here for arguments to come about, but if the sharp mind can prevail, then those expressions of communication could work smoothly, but the opposition of these planets suggests that it might not. There could be some arguments within the team itself on the actions to take. Pluto and Mars are also squaring with, again, the North Node, but here for Kansas City. And so this is, there's a lot of power. And again, it comes from what's been going on in the past. There's a little bit of karma at play here. Kansas City played the 49ers in 2020, and we could see a similar or, karmic retribution outcome as a result of this event. So if the talents and instinctual abilities of the Kansas City team can be brought into harmony, these guys have a good chance of making it. When we go and look at this third aspect of the moon and Neptune trining up with Jupiter, we've got really fortunate and instinctual, positive, good mood things happening because Jupiter is hanging out over here in Scorpio and really giving those that hope, that the community spirit to this team. So if they can come together and they can work in harmony, this will work in their favor, especially because these two, Jupiter and Saturn, are not doing much in relation to the rest of the chart. So we're just looking at those two as working together for the benefit of this team. Moving on to the coaches. Let's see what kind of days they have ahead of them. Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers coach, was born on December 14th of 1979 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is his birth chart. Now you'll notice with all of these birth charts, that the moon could be anywhere in these degrees. So we kind of have to keep that in mind, and we will as we go throughout these. Looking, of course, to our 1 and 2s, Mars and Pluto. Venus is very close to Coach Shanahan's aspects here. However, it's not close enough that it's going to give them any benefits. So, unfortunately, we kind of have to discount that a little bit. And what comes into play then is a square with the moon and a trine to Saturn. So squaring with the moon gives some emotionality to this. It's almost like an emotional battlefield, right? The battlefield of Mars and the emotional side of the moon coming together. And Pluto doing the same feels like a power struggle. struggle. Obviously, this is a competition, so both of those things can definitely come into play. But trining with Saturn gives focused, direct energy. That's what we need to see from a coach, right? The moon squaring with Venus, on the other hand, the Venus does come into play, not with these guys, but when it comes to the moon and Neptune. So there's some self-worth issues here. It's not a good harmony inside. There's a lot of anxiety playing here. There's confusion with Neptune, misunderstandings happening. And then Saturn is actually opposing Mars when it comes to the Jupiter-Saturn sextile that's happening here. Saturn and Mars are directly opposite one another and pretty darn close to that Jupiter as well, creating some frustration, disappointment, anger. There's the ability to take big risks. Unfortunately, they may not pay off. So we may see some of that in this game, big risks that do not pay off for Coach Shanahan. It's a cosmic tug of war when it comes to that Saturn and Jupiter, and ultimately Jupiter squaring off with Jupiter is going to create that tension, that hope, but that may not come to fruition this time around. Moving on to Coach Andy Reid. Coach Reid has Mars conjunct Mars and Pluto. So these, transiting planets going around the chart happen to conjunct with his own Mars. Now, this creates a powerful surge of this Mars energy, right? Mars on Mars creates an intense drive, energy, assertion, go-getterness. There's also a little bit of anger and resentment. So I don't know if this could be directed at the 49ers, or it could be directed at, say, a referee who Coach Reid has had difficulty with in the past, something to that effect, that there's a little bit of a grudge going on here, which maybe we want that in the Super Bowl as well. But with Pluto and Mars, he's able to overcome any obstacle. He really has the ability here. I think that he has a great upper hand with this particular transit in his chart. Now, when we go over here to the moon and Neptune, this indicates a fresh start because his own moon and sun are right there too. This is incredibly favorable. It increases some sensitivity, some compassion, some of that in the moment decision making that really works out well for something like the Super Bowl. Then when we look at Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter is conjuncting the south node here. There's some completion, there's some closure happening here. Now, does that mean a loss and moving in a different direction? Does that mean something that we don't know about is coming to a conclusion? Who knows? But it's enthusiastic, it's opportunistic, and I think this points very favorably toward Andy Reid. We also have then the Saturn, as a result, is sextiling this south node. And it's a culmination of events and the ability to salvage goals. So it's possible they're down and come back. Something like that could happen. I do see a lot of tension overall in this game. And I do think that it's going to be close regardless of the outcome. So let's take a look at these two quarterbacks. Brock Purdy, the 49ers quarterback, born December 27th, 1999 in Queen Creek, Arizona. Here is his birth chart. And again, a lot of planets coming up against these transiting planets, creating some really interesting tensions. First of all, we look back to Mars and Pluto right here conjoining with Neptune. And that's creating some paranoia, actually, some delusion, some things that may not really be true and could create some dramatic events. So this could be, again, an upset. This could really create a possibility for a lot of intensity. Again, it's the Super Bowl. There should be intensity. Why else would we watch? Then when we get into the moon and Neptune over here, the moon and Neptune are opposing his natal Neptune. Again, with the intense emotions, confusion, illusion, distortion, and emotional sensitivity are at play here for Brock Purdy. And unfortunately, it's also square to Mercury over here in Sagittarius, which can create some mental confusion, easy mistakes, things to that degree. However, Jupiter conjunct Saturn for Brock right here. We've got Jupiter conjoining with Saturn, which is opportunity, growth, good fortune. So could this potentially take out the rest of those aspects? Transits, not necessarily, because Saturn sextile Saturn then is slow but sure progress towards the objectives. If they can make a slow and steady case during this Super Bowl, they may be able to make it, but I fear that there's just too much distortion happening for Brock to make this his game. When we look at Patrick Mahomes, he's also got some joiners over here. This is Mars conjoining with Uranus. Mars is trining with his Venus. So we've got some really amazing things happening here with unforeseen surprises. Again, this could be a comeback or something just happening that is totally unexpected to the game. Very difficult to plan in advance. So much of this game is going to be in the moment decisions, and whoever can make the best choices in the moment with the information they have is going to be the team that wins. That Mars and Venus trining one another, however, makes it so that he can be direct without coming on too strong, and really being in that moment will work out for him really well. When we look at Pluto in the same position, right, conjoining with Uranus, there's an intensity that can be unpredictable. Okay, so this can go back to that unforeseen surprises. We don't maybe know what's going to happen. And then with the trine with Venus as well, the intensity, the passion, it's all here, and he's going to put it all on the line. Then when we head over here to the moon and Neptune, they're doing a couple of things. They're conjoining with his Saturn, right? Whereas Brock had Jupiter conjoining, we had Patrick Mahomes here has the moon and Neptune conjoining with this Saturn. So it increases that desire to accomplish a goal. Going to go after it hard. There is some distortion, some confusion, some things may come up that shouldn't be. There could be a lot of mistakes in this game, for instance. And Neptune coming in there is also opposing that Sun, giving that heightened intuition. Again, heroism is part of this, but also susceptible to confusion still. All right. And then finally, with Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter is opposite Mars, which is increasing of self-confidence and that desire. He wants it. He wants it really, really bad. He is here to defend his championship. And then Saturn comes in, trining Mars as well, giving strength and ambition and the perseverance to go the distance. So when we look at these charts all put together and all coming into one outcome, what can we say? Well, we look one-on-one here, teams to coaches to quarterbacks. When it comes to the Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers, the Chiefs are probably going to come out on top. Again, the San Francisco 49ers have a good chance too. This is not going to be an easy win for the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have a better shot astrologically. When it comes to the coaches, same with Andy Reid. There's some anger and some issues that could come up for him at this time, but he is once again astrologically better positioned. And as for those quarterbacks, once again, you guessed it, Patrick Mahomes comes out on top, leading us to believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are astrologically going to be the winners of this year's Super Bowl. Will it be true? What will happen? We will only know when we watch on Sunday, February 11th. Here is to the Kansas City Chiefs. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great evening. Go Chiefs.